Hi, I'm a Possum and I find garbage. Today's garbage is Kraven the Hunter, another one of those Sony movies Sony keeps making. This is going to be a low-effort video because I want to get it done quick so I can go see Mufasa, since it's going to be the real moneymaker this month, and no one cares about Kraven the Hunter. I've never read a Spider-Man comic and I don't know anything about Kraven as a character other than he's another Spider-Man villain, so we're in the same situation as when I reviewed Madam Web, which really should have been called Pepsi the Movie. But unlike Madam Web, I don't recall seeing too many product placements in Kraven the Hunter. That could be because I forgot most of the movie as soon as it was over, but still, if it were as bad as Madam Web, I think I would have remembered it. I mean, it does that thing that all Sony movies do where they push their own products. Like every time someone uses a phone, it's of course a Sony phone, that sort of thing. And you can tell this movie was shot on Sony cameras because everyone looks like they have hepatitis. But as I was saying, I don't know anything about Kraven other than he's yet another Spider-Man villain. And this is yet another one of those movies Sony made based on some Spider-Man villain because they somehow retained the rights to these characters and decided they need to chase those sweet, sweet MCU bucks. The only success they've had with this formula so far are the Venom movies, but even that well's drying up. Supposedly, Kraven the Hunter is going to be the last of these stupid Spider-Man villain movies because it took them this long to realize no one cares. Even the people who made the movie didn't care, as evidenced by the hacky connect-the-dots story. Now, this isn't a plot hole because it's technically possible within the logic of the movie, but it's a contrivance because it relies on extremely improbable circumstances. Kraven disguises himself as a prisoner so he can infiltrate a Russian prison and kill an arms dealer who has his own office with a tiger skin rug in the prison even though he's a prisoner. We later find out that Kraven snuck into the prison by killing a prisoner when a prison bus stopped to let the prisoners out to piss, and no one noticed that he took this guy's place because he had a fake tattoo on his neck that matched the prisoner's. Like, that's all he had to do to convince everyone he was that guy. When this is revealed, we see the dead body of the prisoner laying face down in the snow, so we don't ever actually find out what he looks like. So I guess we're meant to assume this guy just happened to look exactly like Kraven, so that all he had to do was put on a fake tattoo. That's awfully convenient. And how did Kraven know that this specific prisoner would not only get off the bus at this specific gas station, then wander off to where no one would be able to see him so he could kill him and take his place? Was he counting on the guards not paying attention? The movie is full of just stupid storytelling decisions like this. Let me list the ones I can remember. During a flashback to when he was a teenager while on a hunting trip with his dad, Kraven says something to the effect of it being cowardly to hunt with a gun because you just use what nature gave you like that the animals do because that's fair. And then, as if to make our hero look stupid, it's shortly after this that he's nearly mauled to death by a lion. So his dad shoots at it and it runs off with Kraven in his jaws and drops him by another character, Calypso, who just happens to be there and who just happens to have a little vial of magical voodoo juice that was conveniently given to her by her grandmother 5 minutes ago. Speaking of Calypso, I remember her name because she's introduced in the flashback and her grandma comes in and casually addresses her by name 3 or 4 times in a single conversation. Have you ever seen a movie or a bad TV show where the two characters are talking like, "So Alice, have you heard about Charlie?" "Why, no, Bob. Tell me what Charlie's been up to." "Well, Alice, as you know, Charlie's Uncle Derek died in a freak pogo stick accident." "Yes, Bob, I remember that unfortunate incident." "Well, Alice, during the funeral, Charlie presented his latest invention, the Uncle Undeader." It's that sort of dialogue, and apparently Calypso is a real name because even her parents call her that, like they named her after the bad guy from Twisted Metal. Apparently, she's some sort of voodoo witch in the comics, but in this movie she's a lawyer. There's also this one guy who everyone calls the Foreigner because he's not from anywhere, and he has this power where he looks into a guy's eyes and counts to 3, and then he's suddenly behind them and can shoot them in the back or whatever. It's never elaborated on, so I guess maybe he has time freezing powers, or he can hypnotize people for 3 seconds. Maybe someone who's a fan of the comics can spend 30 minutes writing multiple paragraphs explaining this character in my comments section with the unjustified expectation that I'll actually read it. There are also several instances where Kraven will just show up wherever the plot needs him to without any explanation other than he's just good at finding people. It might have been interesting to see him do the detective work of figuring out how to track someone down, but I guess that would have taken time away from the oh-so-riveting action sequences. So the movie just sort of insists that he's the best tracker in the world, but never shows it. Oh, I guess Rhino is also in this movie. Now, I don't know anything about him either. I always just assumed he was just always a rhinoceros man, but in this movie, he's a normal guy most of the time, and has to take this drug that keeps him from turning into a rhinoceros man. I don't know if that's true to the comics, but I feel like it probably isn't. Again, someone in the comments can educate me about this oh-so-fascinating subject. Anyway, there's a scene where someone comes in and tells Rhino something, and he just starts making this weird, like, angry goose noise. Like, I can't even imitate it. There was this morbidly obese guy in the row behind me in the theater who was like, oh yeah, at the trailer for some other Marvel thing that played before this movie. And he audibly laughed at that scene. So, I don't know, I guess even, like, the biggest Marvel fanboys in the world, the fat ones with the beards who got, like, you know, popcorn stains all over their Captain America shirts, even they think this movie's ridiculous. So, anyway, during the climax, Rhino is shown headbutting a truck that's speeding toward him, stopping it dead in its tracks, and then lifting it over his head. But then he's killed by being trampled by buffalo. So his body can take the strain of getting hit by a speeding truck and supporting the weight of it, but he couldn't handle the buffalo. This movie was written by a guy named Richard Wink. Yeah, Dick Wink. Normally I hesitate to blame a movie's quality on the writer because big movies like this always go through changes during production, and the final product always turns out far removed from how it was originally written, so you never know how much of it is really the fault of the writer or the fault of some meddling studio executive, but this guy's resume doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Aside from just describing the stupid things that happen in it, there's really not much to say about Kraven the Hunter. This movie doesn't even have meme potential like Morbius or Madam Web. It's not funny bad, it's not so bad it's good, it's just an utterly forgettable waste of time. And I don't know what it is with Sony. It's like they want to be like Disney, but only ever copy the worst aspects of that company, like the executive boardroom-driven storytelling decisions, the contempt for the audience, the total lack of anything resembling a plan for the biggest franchises. Like, we're not expecting high art. It can't be that hard to make a comic book movie when you have hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on one, and a fan base with extremely low standards. I could probably get my neighbor's kid to come up with a better movie if he could put his smartphone down for 5 minutes. There's just so much crap now. I mean, there's always been garbage, but it seems like there's maybe 4 or 5 movies that actually appeal to enough people to turn a profit every year now. Why are they even still making movies? We're at the point where I can predict what movies are gonna flop with 90% accuracy before they're even out. But they're still spending money on them. Why? Alright, that's all I have to say about Kraven the Hunter. Here's a challenge for my audience. In the comments, tell me what Sony products you want for Christmas. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you're not already, check my channel for other videos you may have missed since YouTube doesn't always tell you when I upload. Support me on Patreon, send me your fan art. The links are in the pinned comment. Bye.